Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the I'll Try That podcast. This week we are going to be reliving the Battle of Briton with a RAF inspired and plain inspired beer that is Spitfire, as made by the Shepherd Neame brewery. But first, Rich, got a bit of a hot topic for us.
Well, I suppose I'll bring us a bit more into the future, away from World War II. And the Spitfire plane, but we're going to go for something a little bit more up to date, and we're going to revisit Goose Island, which was spoken about before, and talk about, I suppose, their new collaboration that's been thrown out. I suppose it'd be a bit of an unusual collaboration.
Okay.
Probably, yeah. It's not you like normally you'd maybe get a collaboration between a beer and a type of food or a manufacturer of that sort of thing. But we've gone for a collaboration between a beer and a band.
Okay. Now, wasn't this a similar situation where you were trying to get hold of Goose Island's work with Cadbury or Mars or something? What was it? It was the Cadbury's Cream Egg. Yeah, and that was made by Goose in collaboration with Goose Island, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So this time, me being the whiz that I am, or I've got far too much time on my hands, I actually managed to get hold of this collaboration, and there was only 1,000 4-packs made of this collab beer, and it came in this morning. So the collaboration is Goose Island with Blossoms, I suppose the indie rock band that is out there.
Oh, not the flower.
Not the flower, no.
That's where my mind went.
I think there also might be a negligee brand called Blossoms as well, but just, throwing it out there.
You'd know, mate.
Yeah. Well, I'm a big fan of the Blossoms, and this is their charity beer that they've created, and this is going towards it's a Stagehands charity, and it's a charity all dedicated towards people who were put out of work during COVID in like the entertainment business.
Oh, that's good, of course.
Bit musical, theatre, anything like that. So all money made from this beer is going towards that. And I paid a fair bit of cash for 4 cans of this. It came to
okay, can we guess how much you paid for this?
Okay, so this will include postage and packaging to get it to me.
How many millilitres are the cans as well?
So they're 440 milliliter cans.
Okay, so they're the bigger cans. Okay,
the bigger cans, and I it's for 4 of them.
Okay, I reckon you paid for 4 cans of 440s plus delivery, 15 quid.
Yeah, I was going to go about there.
No, not 15. Go on, Bobs. What were you going to say?
Only I was going to go. I don't know. It just looks like it looks like an executive style can. I was going to maybe say, all right, yeah, maybe you've gone for, maybe it's taken you up to about 18.
It's a good can. So it's £25. It cost me for 4 cans.
You nice, kind, charitable man.
Yeah, that's very good for charity. That's your charitable taxation write-off for the rest of the year.
That's all the charity I'm going to do this year.
Taste every drop of the good you're doing there.
So it's yeah. So it's a hoppy tropical, noisy. It's saying West Coast IPA coming in at 5.8%, and it's called their SK Brew. Take 2, which is in. So I'm going to quickly crack it open, and I'm going to give it a cheeky sip before we continue on, just to give you my quick verdict. But I'll do a proper live one at a later date if that sounds okay.
As a man who doesn't listen to any music post 2004, who are these Blossoms? Do we like them?
We do. They're really, really good, mate. I would definitely give them a listen.
Modern band, is it? I'll give them a try. Why not?
Do they know anything from Daft Punk?
they're the new lot, aren't they? I think I've got a vinyl for them actually.
They've just retired Daft Punk, didn't they? Actually, it was quite big.
Yeah.
Scores on the doors.
You know what, gang? I would give this one a go. Now, if you can get your hands on it, there was only 1,000 of these made, so I'm definitely gonna.
Hence the price. Okay.
Yeah. So there's only 1,000 of them made. I'll probably keep 1 can sealed. Why not? Because you never know, it might be worth a pretty penny or 2 in the future. But you know what? I will drink all of these. They're nice. So jump up onto the Goose website if they've got any left, and definitely buy yourself some.
presumably you got to do that after you've sold a kidney to to get the bank balance in order first.
And Rich, given that you've said that you won't open this one, maybe this will become the second in your collection of beer that you need to drink within a year of purchasing.
Yeah.
So similar to your Faxi, or what's it called? Foul. How do you pronounce it? Faxi beer?
Yeah.
The big one. The big boy. The big brew.
Yeah. Faxi, yeah.
That wine lasts a lot longer.
I've really just got to stop collecting beer.
No, honestly, I think beer is the perfect tool or a thing for someone who's got short-term memory loss, because you have to drink it within a year anyway, so, you just drink the content.
Yeah.
Right, so this week we're going to talk about a staple amber ale here in the UK, Spitfire. Now, so it's been around... and I will say this it's been around since the 1990s, which doesn't sound that very long. It's brewed by Shepherd Neame, which is the oldest brewery in the UK. They're well known now for, hotel chains, restaurants, bars, all likewise.
Kentish, aren't they, Shepherd Neame? They're in the Garden of England.
They are. They're in where I've recently moved to, my neck of the woods, I would say. And, Spitfire specifically was created in the 1990s to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Battle of Briton.
Oh, nice. Hence the name, because the Spitfire was the... so I think it was a bit of a misconception. Spitfire ended up being kind of the aircraft that was known for the Battle of Briton. I think before it was actually the Hurricane that was used by the RAF quite a lot, wasn't it? And then the Spitfire sort of came in, actually performed really well, and then became... And the Spitfire, the plane itself is a British icon, isn't it?
Oh, you can see it on the label itself, that silhouette of the wingspan. The Spitfire is iconic in that kind of like graphic, kind of like silhouette. But you're right, like, if you're talking about who actually won the Battle of Britain, the Hurricanes did the numbers, when it comes down to Downing planes, German planes and stuff.
Can I just drop a Spitfire actual plane and beer related fact?
Go on.
For you guys, that I think is quite good. So the Spitfire, I was just perusing an article, but the Spitfire was used to drop beer kegs to the front line.
Really?
For the soldiers, I literally just googled it and it just popped up. But as a luxury item, that was quite good. And there were certain breweries that basically donated kegs to be dropped to the soldiers on the front line, so they can have a tipple.
Yeah, you want to,
and everything like that. And that was done by the Spitfire. So not related to the ale, but I thought a pretty cool beer related fact.
Yeah,
that involves
I suppose
Spitfire.
You wanted to be the pilot on that mission, not only for double reason there. Obviously, it's quite a nice job also dropping off beer for the troops at the front line, but also I suppose not flying on a mission where you're getting gunned down by the Luftwaffe would be like a bit of a treat as well, wouldn't it? But that put me in mind. I think it's in one of those recent movies about it wouldn't be 1917, must have been Dunkirk, but they mention it as well, because Joe, you mentioned the silhouette, but one of the most iconic things about it is the sound of the Spitfire. For anyone who's not I wouldn't describe myself as an aircraft buff, but there's also a really distinct sound that they make, which I think is the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine. And so if you are into them, I think there are about 60 or so Spitfire planes still actually sort of that can fly and that sort of thing. They make a really, really distinctive noise, which made them really popular as well.
Yeah. Rich, can you maybe give us a sample of what that noise was?
What, the noise of the Spitfire.
I thought about it, but
yeah, the Merlin engine, please. Yeah, we need it. Spot on, please.
So as you guys all know, I'm also, as well as a beer expert, I'm a car expert, because I've watched every single episode of Top Gear. So
they have many Rolls Royce.
That basically is all you need to qualify as a mechanic, as I'm told. As well.
Yeah. I'm pretty much Jeremy Clarkson.
I'm expecting to see you on Drive to Survive next series.
Yeah, me and Max Verstappen, best friends. But I know Formula One.
So we're still waiting for this noise.
So I believe the engine sounds a bit like this. It could be a few octaves here or there, but we'll just go for it. Okay, so. There we go. That is the unmistakable sound of
I think that was the crazy frog, actually, mate.
That was so good.
Bing, 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 bing.
That's very good. Right. Well, I'm going to rip it back to. We'll talk about Spitfires in a second. We'll come back and we'll talk about the brewery and the beers. But I want to talk about Shepherd Neame a little bit more. So it claims to be, and quite rightly is, the oldest brewery in the UK. English independent brewery, I should say specifically. It's been based in the market town of Faversham, Kent, for over 300 years, 323 years to be specific, because its official established date is 1698. However, and I caveat that the town records show that there was a commercial brewing occurring on that site of the Faversham, brewery since 1573.
Wow. Yeah, that's fairly impressive.
And you might know that 1573 was the final year of the Ottoman-Venetian War that lasted from 1570 to 1573.
Not the Venetian War,
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Weren't we talking about that earlier?
Who could forget?
Before we hit record, was how the Venetian War happened.
I mean, God, it was so big. We were just talking about it, about how this is the reason why Cyprus has this Italian influence, because that's at the end of that peace treaty. It no longer was Ottoman influence. It was now owned by Venice. But, oh, gosh, honestly.
Blimey. Takes me back. I'm going to get a fact. I'm going to find out whether if Spitfire and I have something in common or not. Bear with me. More news on that as it develops, folks.
Right.
Really weirdly just reminded me.
That's the world worst cliffhanger.
I love you too, mate.
Before we go back to our man in the sky, that is Barber. So, Drabbers, talk to me about Spitfire Amber Ale and your thoughts on it.
So I've been thinking back to whether I've tried Spitfire before, and I definitely have. It was always one of those points, when you walk into an Asda or a Tesco and they do the 3 ales for £5 or something along those lines. And okay. I definitely went through a period of my life where I was just buying as many different ales as I could to try, to become the beer expert I am. But, it was, I'm going to keep dropping it in there.
I'm going to say this is the 3rd episode in a row where you've mentioned about being a beer expert. On what grounds do you give yourself this beer expert title?
Yeah. I believe I have a podcast that talks all about beer.
You don't wear the badge that often these days, I notice.
Yeah.
I made you the badge. Why aren't you wearing the badge?
Fine. Next time I will put the badge on. But back to Spitfire, and I do remember buying it, but it's not something that I've ever kind of brought regularly or again. But I'm enjoying it as an amber ale. I think it's nice, it's smooth, and it's going down well. And I quite like the fact how steeped in history it actually is, and how it's relating to something pretty cool.
So, for us, for me anyway, Spitfire's been, I've known Spitfire for the entire time that I've been around, obviously because it was born in the 90s, I was born in the 90s, which is lovely.
All 30 years.
Yeah, all 30 years. Yeah. And obviously you can't not, if you're from England, you can't not know what a Spitfire is. You know what it resonates with. But what I've always known it for is being a Kentish ale. And I don't understand or hadn't ever understood what a Kentish ale is, because it's a certain class of beer. It just means it's an ale that comes from Kent. But these guys have pioneered that phrase and have put it out there. And it makes total sense now you know that. It's like the Pandora's box has been lifted. You've seen behind the curtain. You now know how and why Harry Potter was made in the way that it was. How the magic happens. It's just blown everyone's minds.
I really, really like to think you used to lay awake at night going, why is it called a Kentish ale?
Yeah.
I just don't get it. And you're sitting there and there's people at work going, Joe, you look really, really tired. And you're just so distracted because all you can think about is why it's called a Kentish ale.
Well, this is the thing. And I never understood why Spitfire and Harvey's were the only companies that I knew of coming from the Midlands talked about Kentish ales. They're both from Kent. So obviously they're going to talk about Kentish ales. Well, actually, no. Harvey's is technically from Surrey, but, they deal a lot in Kent, so,
Well, is it a Kentish ale, or is it an ale of Kent? Do you know the difference? The listeners won't have heard my killer look there, as if to go, have you thought about that?
Yeah, your eyebrows went far too high.
What I was trying to figure out.
Oh, no, I'm sure the listeners are going, well, Barber, give us some facts on that statement. You've drawn us in. Stop teasing us, Barber, with these provocative questions.
I know, right? Oh, I'm a terror. I'm an absolute terror, I must admit. I'm just actually checking, right? So what decides is which side. It's not actually about beers. It's about people who are born in Kent. You can either be a man of Kent or a maid of Kent, or you can be a Kentish man or a Kentish maid. And it's to do with which side of the River Medway that you were on, that you were born on, basically. And I'm just trying to check which side, because I don't want to guess, but I think because I was born in Maidstone in Kent, which is on the west side of the Medway. By all means, someone ring in and correct us on this. That makes me a Kentish man, and I'm just checking for sure.
Who's ringing in?
Well, again, the phone lines are really hot right now with this. But I'm just trying to bear with me. I'm still trying to confirm absolutely
You
because
sound
I
like you're
believe
part
that.
of like drive time radio, and it's 6:00 in the morning. Welcome to the Battle of that podcast.
Yeah, I'm on the slot that sends people to sleep. That's that one. But I'm assuming, my point is, I'm assuming that the reason it's called Kentish is because it's also born or brewed on the west side of the Medway.
Okay.
But I just want to go and double check.
No, that makes perfect sense
I think so.
because the Shepherd Neame Brewery in Faversham is that side, whereas I was talking about earlier about the Harveys, which is Surrey. It doesn't really refer to all their beers as Kentish. They might have one that's Kentish, so it's interesting. But I only know Spitfire as this amber ale, right? This is the one that's through and through. It's blue. And yet, when you look on their website, and I must say this, I haven't come across this. They have a lager and they also have a golden ale.
Oh, okay.
Which, if I'm honest, I've never heard of these other beers from Shepherd Neame Spitfire. I just know Spitfire as an amber ale. Right, so Spitfire, how many countries? It sounds like a good old knees up here in the UK. Obviously, we're like, yeah, Battle of Briton, celebrate which is fantastic. But how many do you think it exports well? Is what I'm trying to get to. It's a very English focused beer.
You know what? Like we the amount of British beers we've done and seem to export fantastically.
Okay,
and go about the place, but I just don't think this one does.
If you had to put a number on it, how many countries do you think it exports to?
I think it's going to be shockingly low. I say shockingly. How shocking? I'm going to say, I think it's going to be less than 10.
Okay, less than 10, and you've gone 3, Travis.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, you thought Corona exported to 7 countries.
It's gone the other way. You're going to now turn around and it's actually 198 or something like that.
So, Spitfire Amber Ale actually exports to 40 countries. Which I was very surprised by.
Okay, yeah.
So actually, I'm looking at the label a little bit more, and there's some fancy-looking icon at the bottom of the label. Now, Rich, do you have a little bit on this?
I do. I believe that's called the Royal Warrant of Appointment, which is just a pretty fancy way of saying that basically goods and services that the senior members of the British royal family grant to say that they're okay.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that one I always, particularly with the 3, it's not like feathers, is it? But I always associate that with the Prince of Wales. It's Prince Charles's thing, that particular seal, is it?
It's basically the Royal Seal of Approval. I believe there's we've got a marmalade has it. I can't remember which fancy marmalade has the Royal Seal of Approval. But it's basically going, the royal family say, this is all right.
This is the stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I like that. Well, that would probably, I guess, make more of the sense for where it does export to. I'm curious as to what we haven't got time to go do the whole list, but I'm curious as to where it does get exported to, because I kind of feel like of countries that are particularly interested in British heritage. I'm thinking about China and Japan a little bit, and maybe out in Southeast Asia possibly.
But it also goes a bit further than that as well. It as well as being able to package up and sell Britain to the world, it actually goes into that it actually is a protected beer. So very similar to how champagne is protected in the Champagne region, how when you go to places in France, you get DOC as like on labels, where it's basically like you can only get this product from this specific place, and we've gone through all the check marks to be in this place. So by being royal warranted, that means you can only get a Kentish amber ale from Spitfire.
So, yeah, so a bit like the three of us are all from the beer podcast regions of England. Otherwise, this would just be sparkling hilarity. If we weren't, that's what this podcast would be.
I love your phrase of sparkling, as if we're like dressed up in all these like fantastic outfits.
Sequins everywhere.
We are sparkling, darling.
It's only the most fabulous podcast out there.
Yeah, only the most fabulous. So I'd say overall, numbers wise, let me do some numbers. I will talk about numbers.
Please do. We've been waiting.
I'm on the edge of my seat, literally.
So, no, you mean figuratively.
No, I'm literally on the edge of my seat.
Before you do the numbers, I'm going to say, because also it's not fit for publication, but for the listeners, a little bit of have some homework, guys. Go and check out or find out wherever you can the story about. So Spitfire obviously is was a prominent plane in the Battle of Briton. Go and find out the story about the old fighter pilot. So it was attributed to a couple of different people, so I don't really know who originally said it. But the story about the Spitfire pilot and his encounters with the German planes, which were called Fokkers and Messerschmitts. Have a look at that story in your own time. I think
so. You can't read out the story on the podcast. Is what you're saying?
I don't think we haven't the time anyway. Have we?
No, we don't. But I like that anyway. I like that nonetheless.
Go and check out the story about Spitfires, Fokkers, and Messerschmitts.
Fokkers, Fokkers.
That's the one. Yeah, I think they were Dutch, possibly.
And the first person.
Wasn't there a Prodigy song that said Spitfire?
Yeah, I believe it was called Spitfire.
There was, yeah. It's probably not about the plane, literally spitting fire.
It's good, actually.
But well, as I said, it goes back to the Spitfire is iconic. It's been around. It transcends a lot of different mediums. From music through to storytelling. Everyone kind of knows a bit about what a Spitfire is, or at least would know its importance, because we talk about it a lot here in the UK. It's important with the Battle of Britain. But numbers-wise, so on Instagram, they have 3.5k followers. And on Twitter, they have 8.5k followers. So, again, I would say you have to try and sample a Spitfire Amber Ale, because it is the classic. It's the quintessential. Exported to 40 countries. I am yet to try the Golden Ale and the Lager, so I'm not going to comment on those, because I definitely want to taste those first, especially given that they say that Spitfire's Lager is the lager of the UK, which is a bold claim given that they are nowhere near the levels that Carling and Foster's are when it comes to being actually the lager of the UK.
Look, we've
yeah, it's not the one that jumps to mind.
We've also had arguments and debates over when they call themselves the original of the lager, the best that there is. It's just, we will try it, and then I will make the decision.
We get the final say.
No, we don't. Rich does.
I do. I get the final say.
I'm sorry for overstepping my mark there, Rich. I defer to your knowledge.
Rich, give us the engine noise again.
I was really hoping you'd do something that's not even engine-y, just going...
And that's all we have time for this week's episode of the I'll Try That podcast. And so from me, Joe,
Rich,
Barber,
and Simo,
goodbye. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram,
Twitter,
I'll try that podcast.com,
and watch us on YouTube.
Goodbye now.